Okay, my friends, tonight we're going to meet a college professor, a guy with 5 master's degrees, starts competitive powerlifting at age 57, had been a gymnast before that. And it's this gentleman, Fred Peterson. And there you can see, okay, so he was 56 was his first competition there. And at that age, he pulled 6'11, had a 1394 total, uh, which certainly is pretty good. And then he just keeps going from there. And amazing feats are familiar ground for Fred because, as I mentioned prior to powerlifting, he was a gymnast, and he was one of the few men alive in the 50s capable of a one-arm plank, which we will see a picture of here shortly. It's a maneuver on the parallel bars where he basically held himself up with one hand, hold your whole body. Now, a while back, I had a video with this title, Why Are Gymnasts So Jacked? And they are. Um, their upper bodies are insane, shoulders, arms, everything really. Um, but anyway, so he starts powerlifting in this way. By chance, he was challenged to deadlift a loaded bar sitting in a room, didn't know how much it was, and had never deadlifted before. He pulls it up, turns out to be 480 or 485. This is one of the gentlemen that I featured in that video about the Jack Gymnast. You can see he's got the 8 pack. His arms are incredible. He's got obliques. He's got everything going on. Anyway, so and then going into the current time when, as a power lifter, Fred is now 235. He's not the 160 that he was when he was doing gymnastics. Now, this is another picture, but it's showing which it said that Fred could do. And that's a pretty crazy thing right there, holding yourself out like that. Kind of looks like Fred Hadfield, who was, in fact, a gymnast before he was a power lifter also. So anyway, he's talking about trying to go after 700, and he says if he can pull it after he turns 62, and it'll be this new world record. Now I don't think he ever quite got that. I think he ended up at 683 or something like that. But there he is doing the plank as we mentioned, and that's pretty crazy. Um, So, and it's talking about his training. It's if you wanted to check out his training, you'd have to go 30 years backwards in time because he does almost exclusively the power lifts. Um, each workout is at or near maximum weight and just old school, and does trains a couple times a week and does all 3 lifts during both of those sessions. There he is, and obviously that's a 551 deadlift, and you can see he's up there. Um, Ironically, for one devoted so specifically to the sport, he's begun doing swimming as rehab for a shoulder, and he's talking about how well he does the breaststroke, and talking about science, and that he, like I mentioned, that he's a holder of 5 master's degrees and all that stuff. So, and a college professor. So here he is at 75. Obviously, later on, this is not really from that article. But this is a 607 deadlift at 75, and this was in 2015, I believe. Um, and it talks about his unorthodox deadlift form, and he gives all these secrets, but you don't really want to know what these secrets are because they're only secrets that work for him because they're strange stuff. Go ahead and read it honestly, but he keeps the bar out in front of him too far. He has one foot a little bit askew from the other. Um, and then he deadlifts with a rounded back, much like our friend Vince Anello. Vince has scoliosis, so um, and both of those guys were blessed with long arms, which helps in the deadlift department. So, anyway, he's talking about this form, distance from the bar, as I mentioned, which when I deadlift, if it's not dragging up my knees, it's not right. Strong believer in listening to oneself and doing what's right for you. There's my friend Vince again. Now, he's the first guy to do over 800, weighing less than 200. And again, to watch his form, you just kind of cringe, but it worked for him, man. Um, and he feels those who become great do so because they have the guts to follow their instincts, as he does. We all must find our own way. And final secret is to avoid bodybuilding. He sees such activity as a form of cross training and a non-specific energy drain. Also, not so crucial to Fred are elements of diet and rest. He does not watch his diet. He eats whatever he wants. Nonetheless, his cholesterol is low, and a fact he attributes to genetics. Nor does he require large amounts of sleep. He is a light, restless sleeper, believes sleep is more critical for mental recovery. And he goes on to talk about recuperation. Now, one cannot help wonder if such a blase approach at 61 still yields such iron bending results. What would he have been capable of in his youth? Certainly, Fred's talents are many at his age. His presence alone is a contribution to the sport. There he is again, and that's with that 607 at 75. But this goes into Ross NMA, who has the book Never Gymless and a website that this was on. But this goes into talk about, and this was an article. It was 15 years later. So then Fred was 75. Um, but it's just saying, he just it's just hard work and doesn't come easy, and people he goes on to talk about how people these days are always seeming to be looking for shortcuts, and really, there are no shortcuts to greatness. And it says they can't handle the truth, and I think that's true, and I hope that's not true of you, because you know, as he says, you can't handle the truth. If you can't, that's a problem, because you'll never really be all that you can be, whatever that is, and that's for you to figure out. Um, Without having the right attitude, and putting the work behind it. Um, Here's another gentleman that's about the same age, and uh, I don't think Mr. Birch has ever been over 220. I think he's more like 200 these days. In that last video on seniors, I did mention Albert Beckles, but I did not have a picture, and that was my problem. But here he is, and I think he's in his 50s there, and you can see just in phenomenal shape. And I didn't mention this guy, which I don't know how I didn't mention Robbie, but this guy is like 79 years old, still just ripped to the gills. Not quite as massive, of course, as he was, in his Olympia contender days, but ripped. This is my friend Joe DeMarco. Here he is at 78, tossing around two and a quarter on the bench like it's nothing. And he kept on, training right till his dying day. A couple guys from the club there, you can see me spotting on the left hand side there. That's my friend Ronnie Lobb, and he was a good masters lifter, one of my club mates. And I mentioned Don Coons, who also was. And then here was our team leader, and that would be Mr. Nick, Dr. Nick Theodoro, and good coach. So that's about it for this video. I thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please hit those like buttons. If you haven't subscribed, please do that. And you'll get notifications when I pop up a new video. If you got any ideas for other videos you'd like to watch, hit me up. Thanks, and I'm out.